Welcome back. Now, the number one story of the week. Agencies now have new rules for paying back loans from the Technology Modernization Fund. New guidance from the Office of Management and Budget gives agencies opportunities to pay back the loans over time, or in some cases, not at all. Renee Wynn, former Chief Information Officer at NASA. Matt Cornelius is Executive Director of the Alliance for Digital Innovation. He's former Senior Advisor for Technology and Cybersecurity Policy to the Federal Chief Information Officer. Welcome, both of you. Matt, I start with you. What are the rule changes? How will they work?
Well, thanks, Francis. I appreciate you having me, and it's great to be on with Renee. The rule changes are simple and yet sophisticated at the same time, and I really applaud OMB and GSA for moving in this direction. So they are giving agencies tremendous flexibility in how they want to present projects to the TMF board. So agencies can come with proposals that might repay in full for the amount of money that they request. They also could come with partial repayment, so that could be anywhere from 75% all the way down to 25%, according to the guidance. Or there could be just incredibly important, timely projects that may not have cost savings associated with them. Think cybersecurity improvements or infrastructure, shared services kind of issues that may not be able to repay at all. So I think OMB and GSA are trying their best within the rules and the letter of the MGT Act to incentivize agencies to bring more projects to the board and hopefully higher quality projects to the board.
Renee, I pick out the word incentivize from Matt's answer. From your CIO perspective, do these changes incentivize CIOs to get on board to try to push more projects through the TMF and change the nature of government IT?
Good morning, and thank you for inviting me. It's great to be with both of you, Matthew and Francis. And so the answer is yes. There is definitely, with this repayment flexibility, an incentive to pursue the funds from the TMF a little bit more aggressively. The CIOs within the agencies will still need the heads of their departments, their CFOs, and others to be on board for pursuing this. So it's not just a CIO decision, but the CIO, it should be a lot easier for the CIO to make headway and get the support inside an agency in order to pursue modernization. And I would just add that this modernization is very important for continuous improvement in the federal government to deliver the services to the public. And so the TMF gives the agency that flex with the access to this funding, which is really what all of this is about.
Renee, does this make it more appealing for an organization to try a larger project? I looked down the list of the projects TMF's already funded, and they're anywhere from 5 to, I think, 25 million was the biggest one. Now there's going to be $1 billion there. What does it take to get an agency to think, maybe we should run something through here, or we should apply for something that's $50, $100 million that's really going to move the needle? I'm not implying the projects that are in there now don't, but some of these big bang projects have been sitting around in the agencies for a long time.
That was the intent with changing the repayment rules and other items that were issued this week going forward. And I think it could do that. I think the hard issues you still have is the project's got to be run well, and there needs to be a business case associated with making those changes. This influx of funds also opens up the opportunity to do some more cross-agency efforts, so that, say, OPM with their retirement system, well, having recently retired myself, that touches every single agency. So while the larger amount of funds available does give greater flexibility and more projects and opportunity be pursued, you still have to plan to run this project well. There still will be accountability. There's still going to be, a lot of other opportunities that you have to manage. So the answer is yes, but it didn't relieve the United States government employees from being accountable to delivering the services with the IT.
Matthew, you mentioned the MGT Act. One of the compromises that got the MGT Act through was the inclusion of both the TMF and working capital funds inside the agencies. The working capital funds have kind of disappeared off the radar screen over the last several years. Does that matter, or does the huge cash infusion that the TMF is about to get really negate the need or the impact of a working capital fund inside an agency?
No, I think both are important. And you've heard, Renee actually testified last week in front of the Senate Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs Committee to talk about sort of legacy IT issues. And one of the things that Senator Hassan has clued in on and has understood is that the way the MGT Act was drafted, while it in effect created working capital funds, it did not allow agencies to actually transfer any money into or out of them. So it essentially created dead funds that agencies cannot use. And so Senator Hassan actually wants to go back and tweak the act, make some reforms to the actual underlying statute to actually give agencies that transfer authority so they can use the working capital funds. Now, the flip side of that is there was tremendous flexibility in the MGT Act to deal with the repayment issue around the TMF. And so I'm glad that the board is moving there, but repayment is not the only issue. And the guidance, I think, falls short in some cases because they're still relying on individual agencies to come to the board with agency-specific projects. And OMB and GSA really need to plus up the program management office at GSA, bring in some folks from the U.S. Digital Service who also got money in the American Rescue Plan, bring in folks from CISA who also got money from the American Rescue Plan, and get those folks on the ground, going to agencies, working proactively with them to source the best projects that the board wants to invest in, and not just any project that might make its way up through an agency. So I really think there has to be a better symbiotic relationship here, because at the end of the day, you don't want to spend the board's time looking at just large quantities of projects. You want them to look at high quality projects that have buy-in up and down an agency, a high likelihood of execution, and maybe think a unique and different way about how they go about executing and modernizing effectively. So that's what we're hoping to see. And then if the legislative path, Senator Hassan and her colleagues find a solution for the individual working capital funds, I just think that we'll continue to expand and accelerate modernization going forward.
Matthew Cornelius, Renee Wynn, a great conversation. Thanks very much.
Thank you.